Welcome. This is Crimey Queen. If you are joining us for the first time, this is the channel where we get excited about love. This is where we ignite that which dwells from within us, that which comes alive, makes us smile, makes us laugh. Hence we say the crimson light is light. So just to remind you how important it is to laugh and smile, because this is where we ignite the happy hormones in our bodies. And of course, when we are happy, we perform much better, don't we? Of course we do. All right. And of course, this is why I'm performing so good. Okay. All right. So we are continuing our presentations on number 10. With number 10, we have explored the lamb and the bull, and we have seen all these strong correlations with the bull and the lamb. And we have seen even with the horns, of course, the horns of the bull would be going to the sides and up, and the ram would be forward and downward. So yes, forward and downward. This is really interesting. So there's the thing that, of course, it is said that symbols are there for us to learn, and symbols were there before. I believe we learn through sounds and symbols. Okay, and basically, when we pay attention to the symbols, we begin to understand more of creation, more of how it functions, the functions that performs within us, and how we in turn relate to our world. And that's what I am hoping that we can continue to explore on this channel of Actualizing Soulful Love with Crimey Queen, of course, and yourself, of course. And so basically, we have done this. We've seen that the my drawings are really something. So we have seen that the bull, the horns of the bull, it's really like this. Of course, there's the bull. I think the bull has a fat nose or something to that effect. Or okay, so there's the bull. Oh, put some life. There's the bull and there's the ram. The ram goes, um, let's see, it's, yeah. Okay, now it's not really the best of rams. Oh, okay, but there's the ram. In case you can't recognize it, I'm going to write it. So there's the ram, and the ram comes to 5. So we have seen how the correlation of the ram really goes perfectly with the lamb. The lamb, although, was the numerical value of 10, and here we have numerical value of 5. So it's somewhat like Adam and Eve. Adam was 10 and Eve was 5. There's the same story all around. This is what, when we work with the numbers, we can see whether we call it the same story or not, but we could see harmonious transition or connection or assimilation that makes perfect sense. So this is what we are saying. So here we have the bull, and there, so this is the bull. So I write the words in, and perhaps this is why God has been so gracious, giving us the ability or the gift of words. For those of us who can't draw or won't draw, we have the benefit of both. Okay, so we have looked at. So I was looking at ram, because before it was the lamb and the bull, but let's look at the ram and the calf. Yeah. So we see this. So the calf would be, again, a bigger animal in comparison to the ram. Well, or would they be about the same? Depending, well, I'm not sure. Okay. So we have the ram, and then we have the calf. But the calf was that it was the connotation, or it denotes the innocence or purity that was required to be sacrificed. That's what all this was about. So here we have 3136. Now, and then we have 914, which is 5 because it's 14. We've done this. And there we have 10 and 3. This is 13. So we have 13. One's 13. The calf is 13. And, of course, the ram is 5. Now, how do we connect the calf with Christ? It's simple. The calf, we see that Christ had 12 disciples and himself was 13 at the table, because we are talking about sacrifice. Everything we hinge on to the sacrifice. So this is what happened here with the calf. The calf was denoting a covenant, we could say, an agreement, a sort of, because of course it was not keeping the agreement or the commandments or whatever it was, that God was rough with the children of Israel. This is what we learn according to the scriptures. But this is 13. This is the calf here. The calf was that which was given for sacrifice. Now, in the Old Testament, there was lots of talk as well about, the spillage of the blood, and how everything had to be done with precision. It had to be slain in a certain way, but it was all about blood. What do we know about blood? Blood equals 21. Of course, we know it's also red. It's crimson, it's red. And that, speaking of crimson, crimson equals 10, because we are talking about 10. Blood. So we have seen how when we do the numerical value for the word 17, which 17 in symbolic numbers equals 8, we see that 17 equals 10, the perfect number or perfect symbol. So it's about that transition. It's about saying that you have a trip, or you're going to take a trip to the UK or wherever you are, from the UK to the States. You're taking a trip, but there are aspects of that constitute that trip. So this is what we are talking about. So you'd have to buy a ticket, take a train or take a plane or take a taxi, or board a plane. There's so many steps to that thing happening. So there we see there was specific instructions in how the sacrifice had to be conducted, how the calf had to be slain, or the children of Israel. Of course, I think there was the golden calf at one stage. Now, that's interesting. It was gold. What did they bring to Christ when Christ was born? The wise men, it was frankincense, myrrh, and gold. So we can see that everything has a connection to Christ and Mother Eve. Everything was happening there. But it would mean that perhaps when we say that God was upset and wroth, it's like something has to tip over sometimes to recognize the next step. And we see that happens, like in the eclipse, for instance, that everyone has been talking about. A lot of things have had to go, like electrical appliances not working, or maybe that is to get us to adjust our patience level or our tolerance, or you were in an accident. It gives you time to really focus on the life you are living. So those things are there to help us. And so what was being spoken about, well, God was really rough, and I really would not like to be there in those days myself, talking about the roughness of, how God was with the children of Israel, or how the children of Israel too was with God, vice versa. But basically, we could see that this was all about bringing things to another level. Bringing things to another level. One of the things that I noticed, let's do the numerical value for calf again, just to really tie this in, 3, 1, 3, 6. So we see that's 10, 13. So 13 is really 4. Now, of course, what the two things I really want this is 4. Let's just say this is 4. Yeah, one of the things that I noticed from the scriptures, there is a thread of information that really ties things beautifully, like it were a cross. Is that even with Christ asking his disciples, well, who do they say I am, the Son of Man is? He didn't say, well, I am. The I am is the I am, or the Son of Man is. And it's like, or the Son of Man. Yeah, there's the word am, because at the end of that sentence I read is am, which is denoting Eve. It's like he's saying Christ is more or less giving the answer that who do they say that the Son of Man is? But it wasn't is, it is went to the am, I am the Son of Man is, or something. But what I am trying to say is, in that question was the word we have this also in the question, which is already the I am that I am, the name given to Moses on Mount Sinai. So here we have already, it's like if I'm asking you a question, and this is what psychologists have also discovered, if you use certain words, that is the cue that you are sending to the listener or the respondent to say, oh, well, yeah, the I am. Of course, the I am was spoken of already on Mount Sinai. Okay, so that would be the connection. We could say, oh yeah, it is said that you are the Christ. So the one who really responds to the Christ, the AM, for instance, am, which is in direct correlation with Christ, of course, there we are. And that was Simon Peter, I think it was, who said, of course, Simon Peter. Now, Simon Peter, for instance, Peter is 10. We could see with Peter that would have that connection as with Adam and Eve. So there was Christ, the Christ, AM equals 5, it equals Christ, it equals Eve. And like Peter equals 10, it equals Adam. 10 and Adam is also 10. So we can see how the stories, this is what I'm saying. Now the other thing, a point I really want to make is the thread that I notice through those stories is that there was always a prophecy. Like today, people are always saying, well, it's the end time and Christ is coming. And another person in the following year or next 10 years, we don't know, they hinge upon that because there was someone who had done a mathematical equation or solution and said, oh no, Christ will be coming in 2012. It didn't happen because of XYZ, but he'll definitely be coming in the next 5 years. So there was always a prophecy that people were buying into. And they were buying into this prophecy to see, of course, now there were also people who were, I think there was something about one priest or there's a priest, but people who really believe, of course, they live that and says, okay, I must be that person. I must be the next Christ. There was someone, I think in Australia or somewhere. Yes, I am the Jesus Christ. And there are all sorts of people around because there is a prophecy that had been put in place, and someone has, or enough energy has been put or devoted or focused into seeing the manifestation of that prophecy. So this is what I am saying, that of course in the scriptures that when it was said, yes, and Christ came, because that had to be fulfilled. There was the word, because this would be fulfilled. So there was an obligation to have something fulfilled. Okay, now back to the calf. We see here, this is the 13. That Christ on dying on the cross, of course, his disciples, and there at the table of the Last Supper having the harmonious agreement. Whenever you break of my bread, break of that bread, drink of the blood, remember me. Remember me. Whenever you do this, remember me. As I say, you could check my other presentation. The me here would be that bond, that there would be agreement, and that falls under number 2. Hence, number 2 is of unity and bond. Do check my presentations on honeybee or anything like that, or the number 13. You will see what I mean, which equals 4. Now, the 4 here is your north, south, east, and west. And basically, that's it here. So we could see this is what the story again. Christ came to die for us on the cross. I hope you have, but of course, as I say, I believe the Christ Spirit is that which dwells within us, that which is the church within us. And you find Christ for you where Christ is lives with you, that is fine. But just now showing the correlations of how these are happening here for us. When we add 5 and 4 together, these two calves, for instance, we get the number 9. 9 is our number. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you have found this fun. Do like, subscribe, and stay ignited, because we are planting new seeds. Namaste, and spill over with love. Thank you.